So we're live now, Akshat. We talked into the intro, which is great because that's how I love it. So thanks for joining me on episode 3 of our Legal Lunch Byte. Of course, you and I are colleagues. We've been working together for years, and we have you have a very interesting background. So today we're going to talk a little bit about India, about your recent trip there. You spent 3 weeks there for family. It sounds like one big party. So it sounds like you were doing it right, except you had your kids in tow as well. So
That's right.
why don't you fill everyone in on yeah, a little bit about your background personally, because it's very interesting how you end up practicing in the immigration arena as well, and then we'll dive in, and you can tell us about your impressions because I know your mind's still reeling a bit from the experience. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I'm excited about LinkedIn Live and just raring to share my thoughts. But yeah, my name is Akshat Divatia. I'm an immigration attorney for Harris Sliwoski in the Seattle office. I represent companies of all sizes in attracting and retaining foreign-born talent. I also help individuals, U.S. citizens, permanent residents, with their sponsorships for green card holders to preserve their permanent resident status and to obtain naturalization. And I also work a lot with foreign direct investment clients, foreign companies, typically from Europe and South America, and also from India and Asia in general, who are entering the US market and looking to establish and grow their operations here.
So tell us about your overall impressions. It'd been years since you returned to India. You and I do a lot of cross-border work. We have friends there. We have other partners who we worked with, and certainly clients. So tell us a little bit about your experience since you've worked away for so long. Now going home, what's changed? What are your impressions? How were you received? All of that. Very, very interested to hear.
Yeah. So, I was in my teens when I left India, and over the years I would go back. Of course, I had family over there, but with the passage of time, my direct ties to India had become more tenuous. So this time it had been more than 10 years since I had last visited. And, India, and especially in the last 10 years, has changed significantly. So I was looking forward to that. And also, my perspective of having been away, I was able to discern the differences a little bit more readily as opposed to somebody who, goes frequently. So I was excited and I was not disappointed. I mean, I did spend 3 weeks there. I think, as you mentioned, I was in Delhi, Jodhpur, Jaipur, Agra, and my native city of Ahmedabad. And it was a fantastic experience. I was on the go. I felt a little bit like a political candidate, just being on the go all the time and being on all the time. But I lapped it all up, and my overall impression is that India is primed for a lot. It's primed to grow significantly. And the most amazing thing I noticed was that the mood on the street has changed. Used to be that even academically we would read about stuff, but some of that is promotion, some of that is just kind of aspiration. But what we see on the ground in the can-do attitude and what the people want to do and are convinced that they are able to do, that was something that was really fascinating for me and really gratifying as well. I I think that there was in the past when I would go, I would be the one bringing gifts to family members, and I would be looked upon as here comes the cousin from the United States. But the attitude this time that I noticed was that there was less of that, but instead there was like, come see our house. Look at how clean our house is. We have taken leaps and bounds. Just make yourself comfortable. This is the new India. So I really appreciate. I was not expecting that, and I saw that, and I was very pleased.
I spoke with a reporter over the weekend from Utah Business Magazine, and she's writing an article about the top 5 countries that Utah businesses should be doing business with. And so, in preparation for that interview, I thought long and hard. I read a lot. We focus a lot on international markets, and of course, our sampling is a small sampling, but it's still a sampling. And so I told her that based on what I've reading about China, and I was in Southeast Asia last summer, And I said, I think based on what's happening in China and India just surpassing China in population size this past year, said India has so many things going right for it. It certainly is geopolitically. It's very interesting because of its balance between history with Russia, proximity to China, affinity with the U.S. There are a lot of different balancing factors, and I feel like India is striking its own destiny. Right? There's no, it's not going to be bullied one way or the other. India is going to look under Modi. I feel like that's been the tenor. Is India is in the game 100%, but India is in it for India. And so it's very interesting to get your perspective on that. So I put India at the top of my top 5 list of countries where any company in the U.S. should be doing business in and with India if they can make it happen.
Yeah, you're 100% on point. I do think that this is not an accident. When I look at the mood on the street, I'm going to talk about that, but I think it's not an organic revolution that has come from the bottom up. These are conscious governmental policies dating back to 2009 that effectively have positioned India to improve conditions at home, that improves the outlook of the folks at home, and then also the image of India abroad. And it's a long game. There's the knowledge that in 30 years' time, India will be, India's GDP will be very comparable to the United States, second only behind China. And so everything that the government has done, the initiatives, government has acted through initiatives. I would say there are 3 main things. One is the changes in law and policy. So those are the government initiatives that have been implemented. Second is the emphasis on technology and innovation. And they've gone hand in hand. Sometimes they were the ones that started first, and the government, joined forces. But generally speaking, those are 2 of the most important factors. And then the end result is what is, visible on the street. What you can feel in the voices and the excitement of the folks is that they know that, if their own generation doesn't make it, it'll be the next generation, and they're preparing for that next generation to be the leader, one of the world leaders. So we are lawyers, and so I always, I talk to fellow lawyers there, and kind of learned that the legal schemes, there have been 2 legal schemes that have really made a difference. One is the goods and services tax in 2017. Prior to that, the Indian tax system was much like the United States. You had a central government, you had a federal tax system, tax code, and then you had individual states with their own tax regimes. But post 2017, India, essentially abolished all the state taxes, and it's a national system, and that has bred transparency. It has bred predictability. And so, if I'm a foreign investor, well, on the one hand, if I'm, an Indian company, for me to be able to engage in interstate commerce has become infinitely easier now. I don't have to worry about how my goods will be treated, from state to state. And then, and the same thing for foreign investors is that predictability, eliminates or minimizes volatility. And that stability is what companies want when they enter a new market. They want to see an upward ascendancy. There's also been a focus on anti-corruption, and this, as we know, is a big thing in India, in the developing countries. Previously the focus was on the bribe taker, and then the amendments that I think went on in 2020, I believe. But the amendments turned the focus to the bribe giver, where if you crack down on those individuals who are offering bribes, not just those who are taking them, there are anti-corruption units. There is this more visibility. Social media has obviously made it much easier for bad acts to be advertised and for them to serve as a deterrent for others. So, but again, that came about because of governmental initiatives, passage of laws that, put accountability, that increased accountability for everyone in the society. So that's on the legal side. And of course, this venue is not, I could, as you can see, I'm excited about it and I can talk a lot about it. But I want to also mention the technology and innovation, because everyone associates India with IT, and it's true that you know the companies that were pioneers in the field, they've been able to convince the government to also take on initiatives. So back in 2009, India embarked on an extremely ambitious biometric um, uh, national identification document system, where trying to do that for a billion people is very difficult. But over the years, and while there's been some resistance in general, over the years, that Aadhaar system, as it's called, is what is accepted for creating bank accounts, for registering births and deaths, for registering property, for even getting a cell phone, right? A mobile phone, a SIM card is also associated with the Aadhaar system. So there's that. On top of that, there are the government initiatives are also designed to bring internet to the rural areas, right? Like there's India is not just 15 major cities. It's 1,000 villages, right? It's there's thousands of villages. And so the idea is that as more people tend to gravitate towards the cities, the villages should not be left behind. And by bringing investments into infrastructure, especially IT infrastructure in the rural areas, the government is educating. It's focusing on digital literacy to 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 make sure that on the one hand, government services are also offered online primarily. That yields more consistency in adjudications. So if I'm going to go register my birth, or if I want to get a passport, if I have to make the appointment online, if I pay online, then I don't have to worry about going and paying somebody extra in order to facilitate this process in cash, right? So that is a huge deal.
You had mentioned the villages, and so when I think of India, I had one of my best friends growing up came from southern province. His family emigrated to the U.S. and and so I learned a little bit about I mean I was 10, 8, 9, 10 years old, kind of learning about what India was like, and he would tell me this was in the the mid '80s, mid late '80s. So I had that kind of set the tone for me in understanding a little bit about India. But what has happened in terms of the the middle class, the lower class, the caste system? I mean, how much does that still dictate a person's ability to rise up, to really make it to the next level in India?
Yeah, I think it does to some extent. It would be foolish to say that it doesn't exist. It exists. What I do see though is that that division is less pronounced. In other words, if economic growth is the way out of poverty, and economic growth, the entire country has embraced economic growth, then when I've seen in the rise of the hospitality industry, leisure, the emphasis on manufacturing, the momentum is such that everybody is buying into this. And so even people at the lower end of the caste system, they recognize that if it's not for me, it's for my children. So the availability of education, the availability of digital literacy, there's this constant desire to keep pushing up. You may have glass ceilings, and you do have glass ceilings, but the different classes are pushing up. And when you see the growth of middle class, the middle class has grown not just stronger at the ceiling, less so perhaps at the ceiling, but more so at the floor. It has expanded at the bottom. And that creates that perception that, we have more disposable income, we can afford more services, we can diversify our offerings. I mean, I've malls and supermarkets and the hotels, uh, there were times when you would have to pinch yourself to see if that you're actually in India. I mean, and so if that's the model, if that's the model of where the country wants to go, and the other classes see that, they see that, and they try to contribute in that particular growth to the extent and capacity they can. So I would say that, yeah, I think that the class system, caste system, they're both going to remain, but the lines become blurrier, and especially where it's tasks. with automation actually too. With automation, some of the tasks that were undesirable are going to become automated, where the lowest of classes will not be necessarily the ones responsible for taking care of them. So there's a lot that India will go through, and I'm really interested in seeing where AI takes it, especially with digitization. Excuse me, with robotics. But yeah, I'd love to go back a little bit more frequently, so that my perception is not so dated.
That's great. Well, thanks, Akshat. We're at time. I really appreciate you coming on, spending a few minutes, giving us your deep impressions on back at home in India, and hope that everyone who tuned in enjoyed it. And we will see you next week for another 15-minute Legal Lunch Bite. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for joining.